Well, good evening, everyone out there. Michael Farrar from DSPORT magazine, and thank you for what will probably be our last broadcast of this year. I don't know, maybe next week we'll be back, but likely to be our last broadcast of the year. And right now, I wanted to highlight the final item that we had in our showcase, and this is the RB26 full titanium downpipe available from Tomei. If you've ever considered running a titanium exhaust, I'll take any and all questions about the pros and cons of doing so. And I want to talk a little bit about the development and the construction of this piece, and we'll take a look, first starting with how the original equipment manufacturer did it for your R32, R33, R34 GTR, essentially the same power plant in all three platforms. And this is the factory downpipe. You know, we've got twin little 60 millimeter pipes here going into a transition here that we don't even know how god awful it is, and it comes out at a 70 millimeter transition at the other end. Now, a couple problems with this. One is the size of it. It's just 60 millimeters, which isn't allowing the turbo to really get the minimum amount of back pressure behind it, so it's not spooling up as quickly as it could. It's restricting the flow a bit. And the other problem with it, as you'll see in both of these other designs, is the difference in length in the pipes. It's a pretty stout difference here between this pipe and this pipe here. And what's happening is, you know, the exhaust coming out of an engine, it's not coming out continuously. It's coming out in pulses. You know, this bank, this bank, this bank, this bank, you know, it's popping back and forth. And what you want to have happen is when it's coming down here, you know, it's like getting on a freeway on-ramp. You want to make sure it's merging at the right point, and an equal length will let you do that. When you don't have an equal length, there's going to be certain parts and certain speeds, engine speeds that you're going to be at where you're not really getting peak efficiency through it. So are we having some technical difficulties, or we're good?
Cash is going up 50%.
50%, we'll see. Should be all right. Anyways, so let's look at an aftermarket one. This is your typical aftermarket pipe, and what they tried to do here is they tried to
9, 8, 7, 6.
All right, this is our take 2 on this. Michael Farrar from DSPORT magazine, and we'll see if we keep having this overrun cache issue and trying to stream this thing out to you guys. I don't know what the heck's happening, but hopefully it looks okay now. What do you guys see? Better? All right, so it looks okay. We were talking about titanium exhaust systems, and specifically the piece right here from Tomei USA, which is the front pipe for the RB26. This is going to be found in the R32, 33, 34 GTR. It's their full titanium upgrade, which allows you to get maximum performance out of your stock position turbos. And let's start over here again, like we'll do it the same way, because I think that's where we started to lose you guys. This is the stock downpipe, and just 60 millimeters here on the inlets. It has a pretty, if you were to remove this, you'd see it's not a very gentle transition into the single pipe, which is just a 70 millimeter. Now, this aftermarket pipe here tries to correct some of the difference in length here by trying to make an equal length between the two, which should help the pulses kind of line up a little bit better, so you don't get to a situation where you're kind of having traffic run into each other. And in doing so, they fixed that part of it. They didn't really get much bigger here, and they really didn't take any weight out of it. Both of these here are pretty much about 13 pounds. In either one of those cases. And then now we move over to the Tomei one here. You're talking about 7 pounds, made out of titanium. It's about a 1 millimeter thick waltz titanium. Very, very, very light. I'm not this buff to be able to do this. And they really built it in mind with performance, with fitment, and it pretty much is the ultimate downpipe. If you've got stock position turbos on your 32, 33, 34 GTR, this is what you want to have in there to maximize the performance of it. And they built it with, like I said, in mind with fitment and stuff, how it detaches, where it comes apart, to make the installation a lot easier. So unlike going 260s to a 70, this already starts off at 70 millimeters. So your 70 millimeter right off of each turbo comes into a nice transition here, gradual transition to an 80 millimeter outlet, which pretty much lets you get all the performance you can out of the stock position turbos. Now, some of the advantages of titanium, we talked about it before, it's lightweight. The other thing people don't realize, or enough people don't realize, is titanium is a pretty good thermal insulator too. There's a reason why they have titanium shields in places where you're really trying to control heat, and it doesn't let as much heat escape. It doesn't have a lot of the thermal stressing issues you can get with stainless steel and stuff like that. So just a few of the advantages here. Now, of course, the only downside to a part like this is going to be the cost. Yes, it is going to be more expensive, but you've got basically a part that's lighter, that's going to give you more performance, and has much less chance of wearing out over time. Yes?
Will this fit on the R33?
Yes, it will. So R33, it'll fit on R32, R33, R34 GTRs, any of the platforms with the RB26 engine, as long as your turbos are in that factory position, which, you know, those low mount positions there, where you're basically going to have the turbo, and then you'll have the turbo outlet that goes into here, turbo outlet goes into here, and that'll bolt right up to it. And one of the nice features here is they actually added an extra bung here, so that if you want to put an aftermarket air-fuel ratio monitor, you've already got the bung in there. You can put it there so that you don't have to put two of them. You don't have to put one for the front, one for the rear. You just put one right in there, and you get the overall average air-fuel ratio for the entire engine. Now, what's unique about this, compared to most of the titanium parts that are out there, is the number of welds. And I'm just going to grab something here. I wasn't really prepared for this, and hopefully you don't lose me. But let me show you. Typically, to get around a corner with titanium, you're going to be using a lot of pie cuts, lobster tail, miter bends, whatever you want to call it. A lot of these sections, pie sections, to make a bend, because typically most companies don't have the ability to bend titanium tubing as everybody can pretty much do it with stainless. So typically you're going to have a situation where if this was made in the traditional fashion, there'd be welds all through here. And not only is that, you know, labor intensive, the problem with all those welds is you're in a very high heat area, and the less welds you could have there, the better. Yes?
Is titanium superior to other materials?
In certain areas it's superior, definitely. A titanium is going to be a great material to resist any type of corrosion or oxidation or anything like that at high temperatures especially. It's a great high temperature material. It has a very good strength to weight ratio. You know, that's why on the super exotic cars, you know, they'll use titanium as the connecting rod material. It's a great material in a lot of ways. There's certain things that that titanium doesn't do well. It doesn't like to be brushed up against and, you know, have a part wearing against it. It'll gall up, and it's not it can't have a really wearable surface to it. So there's certain parts you can't use it for. But for something like an exhaust, it's an ideal material. It's very lightweight. It's very, you know, good at high temperatures. Yeah, you can abuse the crap out of it like we have here. This piece here, this is from a Greddy system that we've had on the R35 for, I don't know, probably 10 years. And, you know, it's worked fine. We've abused it plenty, and it just turns colors, but it continues to work great. Yes?
You mentioned high-flow cat converters in the earlier video. What high-flow cat converters would you recommend for the R32 till R34 Skyline GTR?
Oh gosh, it's one of those subjects where you got to be careful, you know. EPA and CARB and all that, they don't want you touching your cats on your vehicle. So I'm assuming you're talking about doing this on a full race vehicle. And in that case, you know, you basically want to look towards companies that are offering metallic converters and taking a look at that. You know, a lot of the ones, even the OE converters on, say, like an R35, having them on there versus putting a set of aftermarket downpipes on there, you're maybe looking on a 600 horsepower car of maybe trading away 10 or 15 horsepower. I mean, the factory OEM ones work really well, so you know, just look out there and do a little research, and you'll find a few out there that are actually very high flowing. Yes?
What do you think of slip fit exhaust systems?
You know, a slip fit can have its advantage. It can also be the world's biggest headache. And it really depends where you put the slip fit. You know, a good example, here's the Greddy system here. And on this Greddy system, they use a V-band clamp. Well, essentially, that's kind of like a slip fit, but it's just a slip fit in the rotation aspect. You know, a true slip fit, you're going to actually be able to move it in this direction too. So exhaust systems that only have slip fits are definitely going to be a headache. But like we saw earlier, what was it? Try to remember now. What company were we just doing? X-Force. The X-Force exhaust, they had a combination of flange fittings and slip fits. And in that case, as long as you have enough flanges in there to kind of get you some fixed positions, having the ability to rotate with the slip fits can actually be an advantage. So it really depends on how it's designed. You can design a great system with all slip fits. It's just going to be more difficult to install, and you really got to kind of walk the installer through how to do it. Same thing with all flanges. You could get away with all flanges if it's built just exactly right. Yes?
Is there different types of titanium?
There's different titanium alloys, yes. There's a number of different alloys, and you know, there's different states you can get it in, and it'll have different ductility to it, different hardnesses. But you know, what most people are using is pretty similar to this alloy right here. So it's pretty common that you're going to see. Gosh, I forgot the name of it. 6AL4. I forgot the exact name, but they're pretty typical. You're not going to see that wide of a variety. It's kind of like most of the aluminum that we see used in the racing side is either 6061 or 7075. And it's pretty much like that. There's one or two grades of titanium that are pretty much used exclusively on the motorsport side. Okay. Yes?
What kind of pipings improve the engine performance?
Okay, what kind of pipings improve the engine performance? That's a good question. It really depends on the generation of vehicle and what time period we're talking about. As we go back in time, OE manufacturers tended to really undersize the exhaust system on turbo cars. If you look at the factory downpipe and stuff on this Starion, it was, who knows, maybe an inch and three quarter. I mean, it was an inch and a half. It was ungodly small. Nowadays, we go to some of the modern vehicles, and you'll see that the exhaust sizing on those turbocharged vehicles is pretty close to optimum. So you're not going to get the gains you can get out of the older vehicles with some of the newer vehicles by upgrading the exhaust system. Back in the days, you'd put an exhaust system on some of these cars and you'd make 30, 40 horsepower, 50, 60 horsepower sometimes. We don't see that as often because the OEs are getting real close to the optimum size. So as far as the exhaust goes, what you can do on the exhaust size, anything from the cat back is pretty much fair game. You don't have to worry if it's a street car or a race car. As long as it's after the cat, the rules are you can do a cat back exhaust and not worry about CARB compliance, EPA, and all that. As far as anything before the cat, that's when you kind of got to do checking into the age of the vehicle, use of the vehicle, state that you're in, federal regulations, and all that kind of stuff. But some applications, it'll be choked off from the header. Some application will be choked off from the downpipe. It kind of varies per vehicle where that first bottleneck is going to be. But on a turbocharged car, the freer flowing you can get the exhaust from the turbine outlet down, the better. It'll spool up quicker, it'll have less back pressure on the engine, and it'll lower the exhaust gas temperatures. It's just all benefits across the board. You can make it so big that it's not really giving you any more gains, and it's just making it a very annoying and droning system. But as far as taking away performance from making it too big on a turbocharged car, it's really not, it's not doable. As far as the other components on the car, you could have a restriction on the intake side too. You got to be careful on some applications because they are mass air applications where a metered amount of air is supposed to go through an orifice a certain size, and if you mess with that, you can mess with the whole calibration of the car. So you got to be a little bit more measured in your kind of approach to that kind of stuff. But intake restrictions do exist. But like I said, the newer the vehicle, the less the OEM left on the table there. There's, we don't find intakes that give us 15, 20 horsepower like we used to. You're happy to get 3 or 4 horsepower. It's just really a change in what we're seeing from the OEs. They really got a lot smarter with their system designs for performance on turbocharged applications. Okay, so that'll wrap it up. Want to thank you guys again. We may have some stuff next week, we may not. We've got a lot to do. We've got end of the year cleaning to do. We've got so much to do. But we want to thank you all for joining us. And I'll tell you what, we've got a deal that we want to do. See if this is something you're interested in. If you guys are interested in getting one of the Tomei downpipes, we're trying something to see if it's something you guys want to do or not by offering at our store. So you can go to our website, click on it, go to the DSPORT store, or is there a direct link to the store? What is that called? www.store.dsport? Yeah, www.store.dsportmag.com. And you can see one of the items we have on here there is the Tomei downpipe. So if you're interested in that, you can order it. And if you, the GTR, what is it, 50th anniversary shirt? Is that what that is? Yes, 50th anniversary shirt in whatever size that we have that you can fit in. Between small and extra large, that is. So yeah, check that out. I think the price on there, I want to say is like $1,090 or something. So go ahead, check it out. If you're interested in it, go ahead and order it. That deal is going to be good to the end of the year. And then all bets are off. Go back and you won't get the t-shirt and the 12-month subscription. But want to thank you guys very much for joining us again. Did the stream work okay, guys? No buffering, weird stuff this time?
But it fixed itself.
It fixed itself?
5 seconds.
All right. Well, sorry, guys. I still don't know why we're having some of these technical difficulties, but I think we'll get it sorted out before the new year. And once again, we appreciate all your support. Make sure you're joining us follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, follow us on our website, follow us anywhere you can. What's that?
Facebook.
Facebook. Gosh. And Facebook. All right, we look forward to seeing you guys. If you guys want to see more stuff or you got something in particular you want to see, drop us an email at inbox@hardmediainc.com. That's hardmediainc.com. Or you can also message us from any of the different platforms, and we'll hopefully look at that and see your response and your request and try to put together that video for you. Have a great year, and if we don't see you, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and have a Happy New Year.